Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Herb.
Welcome to Gene Cannabis TV. You made the trip. We're here in the studios of CTV 29 in Eugene, Oregon. We've got my co-host, one of my co-hosts, the Zadrad.
Oh, jeez. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So my daughter calls me. Yeah, she'll appreciate that.
And you got Dank on this side. So we've got some stories of cannabis and some good ones and some bad ones, but we give them to you all. Of course, we enjoy the good ones, but this is a conference coming up. The John Schwartz, the father of string theory, is the headline of the Medical Marijuana Conference in D.C. It's the medical marijuana conference planned for next week will not feature activists, politicians, or even law enforcement. The event's main speaker will be John Schwartz, a theoretical physics professor at the California Institute of Technology and a father of string theory. Aside from an editorial published in the Huffington Post late last year, the conference will mark Schwartz's first time speaking publicly on the issue. Being a physicist, not a physician, I don't usually comment on issues on medical science, Schwartz wrote in his editorial, but I can no longer remain silent while people in my family and profession run the risk of federal arrest so that they can follow the recommendations of their doctors. One such person is Schwartz's wife, Patricia, who, after being diagnosed with a bladder condition in 1995, found medical marijuana was the only thing that relieved her pain. After listening to her groan about the issue for years, Schwartz said her husband felt moved to take up the cause. We live in an evidence-based society, Patricia Schwartz told the HuffPost. Why isn't the science getting through? So that's going to be the main speaker, and this is the Americans for Safe Access Conference, and it's going to be next week in Washington, D.C. And we're going to have, and Jim Gregg, we've been on this show many times, local activist. The article that says activists aren't going to be there. Yeah, Jim Gregg and Sam Chapman are going to be there, and they're activists.
Yeah, I know a few people from Washington are making the trip. So
yeah. But anyway, so that's really interesting, and we'll have a report on that. Maybe we might be able to get Jim in here to talk about it, but anyway, we'll get a report on that. And wanted to, oh yes, and you want to talk about Inslee. What do you know about Inslee?
Well, he seems to be a decent guy. He was the congressman in my district. That's where he has been for the last, I think, 3 different sessions of Congress, so he's the new governor.
The state of Washington.
State of Washington, right.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout the whole summer of the election, he was very non-committal. He didn't personally back it, but he didn't at the same time have anything bad to say, and he seems to be working toward it. However, a couple of little details that they're trying to work out are things like how they can make sure that the Washington marijuana stays in Washington and doesn't get diverted into other neighboring states. And I don't know how they're going to make that happen, but at the same time, they're going to try to do everything they can. And one of the things I was reading here is he's exploring some kind of digitally trackable grown plants, and I'm not sure how that's going to work. Are they going to put bugs in bales of marijuana to send off alarms when it goes across the Washington-Idaho border?
It seemed like I heard something about that, and something about a chemical thing. It's like a DNA, or I mean, some kind of a thing that they'll check it. They'll take a test of the product, and then they'll have it in the records. And then, I guess, if they find somewhere else and test it, and it comes up.
Well, that is one thing that they're worried about, because most people that I know, when they have cannabis, it's in a glass jar or some other container. So how are they going to be able to definitively prove that that was grown in Washington, bought in Washington, et cetera, except for doing something to the plant itself? Because that is one of their big concerns that they're trying to satisfy the Justice Department, that they want to see this huge explosion of exporting cannabis to other states. They're already trying to figure out how they're going to deal with the tourism that show up if people show up into Washington, because I-502 doesn't technically legalize marijuana. It makes it legal to have marijuana that you bought in the state. So you're going to have to show a tax stamp or some other kind of proof that this in fact did come from a state store, or if you're a medical patient, to be able to verify it that way. So we're getting in some crazy waters now.
Yeah, well, this is a story from 420magazine.com. And by the way, most of the stories this evening coincidentally have come from 420magazine.com. Great website. This is titled, Inslee Sends a Letter Detailing Washington Legal Pot Plan. Washington State Governor Jay Inslee sent U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder a letter this week detailing the efforts the state is taking as it moves forward with creating rules for a voter-approved legal market for marijuana. It says voters in Washington, Colorado. No, excuse me, that wasn't what I was looking for. They talked about how Washington and Colorado are in touch with each other too. Of course, I can't find that right now. But
well, both governors have gone back to Washington to speak to Holder.
yeah, that might be another story I read. Maybe that's what I was thinking of. But yeah, so I always said it'll be interesting to see, because Washington and Colorado have kind of actually two separate deals. There's a lot. So it'll be interesting to see how
There's
they each work.
similarities, yeah. In Colorado, you can grow your own. You can give from your own garden to a friend of yours.
But you can't in Washington. No. That's the bad thing about Washington. You can't grow your own.
And another thing in Washington is if you're under 21, it's a felony. So they throw kids under a bus. They set a limit for being impaired when there's really no science to back that up. That was the two basic issues that really divided the community in Washington last year. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. Also, the state of Washington, like Oregon and other states, are being active this year in the legislature, which is good. Washington legislature is looking to retool a Senate bill that Gregoire just destroyed a couple of years ago by vetoing just about every provision that was worked in committee on. And so they're going to reinstate that, plus they're going to bring their new liquor board, or the cannabis board as it's going to be renamed, into the process as well. So that's just one of many bills that are going through Olympia right now as they try to get a handle on organizing their own house so they can go to the Justice Department and make them happy. I'd really like to see them kind of get away from all the money they're going to make and start talking about the patients that these bills were intended to provide access for. And I know that's a problem down here in Oregon, and it's still somewhat of a problem up in Washington because it is, in a way, the Wild West. So you have to, the old adage, buyer beware.
Oh yeah. It says here the Liquor Control Board has already held a series of public forums on the rulemaking process.
Yes.
And a draft of proposed rules for producer licenses is expected to be filed by mid-April. Under their timeline, the board said that producer licenses would be effective in August, and processor and retailer license could become effective December 1st. So if the producer license becomes effective in August, that kind of cuts out the outdoor grow for that year.
I don't know what they're thinking. They're still, they've actually extended for 30 days the public comment period. They don't know if they're going to be growing outside, indoors, a combination of both. They don't know how many grow sites they're going to need. They kind of got an idea of how much they need to grow, which is almost 200,000 pounds. And I don't know where they came up with that number, but it's one that they're floating around up there. I think just to try to drive the debate that, 200,000 pounds, let's see, we're going to get all this money. This is, how they get their $1 million figures is to revenue that they will generate for the state. So they really also need to get back to what the patient's needs are, and that kind of gets lost a little bit, especially with the legalization, which is great. I think we need to just legalize it outright, reschedule, unschedule it. However, the Schedule 2 is better than Schedule 1, but not by much.
Right.
That's going to really limit to who could even be involved with this. And like I say, the patient's concern seems to be always at the end of the list when these groups are working. But the only way that's going to change is, people call their congressmen, they call their senators, they call their governors, they call their state legislators, and on a regular basis, and demand an answer from them. Say, hey, I would like my question answered. I don't want to thank you saying you acknowledge that you got the question. Please give me an answer. What are you doing to, speak for the people of my state? So people need to do that.
Oh yeah.
Because they're not going to do it on their own, and if they're left to their own devices, they're going to listen to big business like they usually do. So I'm kind of hoping that doesn't happen in Washington or any other state.
Yeah, the next story is kind of humorous, and I think I have the image for this. I'm going to have to double check on that, but because that really makes this, really pulls the story together. Police make arrest after mistaking the Buckeye logo for a marijuana leaf.
Yeah, that's a stretch. Let's see, was that in Tennessee?
Yeah, I think it was. Let's see. Yeah.
You would think they would know what a leaf looks like back in that area. I've heard that Blue Ridge Mountains had some of the best cannabis in the country. I'd like to see that happen again. You know,
yeah, this lady resides in Texas, and she was driving through Tennessee with her husband Guido and it was pulled over by police. They were pulled over because the car was placed under suspicion for drug possession, and anyway, they pulled them over because they thought the Buckeye logo looked like marijuana leaves. And I've seen the picture, and what it looks like a bunch of little marijuana stickers is what on a helmet, football helmet's what it looks like. But it says the couple was driving back to Plano, Texas, following a trip to Columbus, Ohio, in order to attend the funeral of Guido's 92-year-old mother. Further, there were no records of traffic stop at all with the Tennessee Highway Patrol, nor the Shelby County Sheriff's Office in Memphis. Does that mean these officers are too embarrassed over their mistake to register their actions with their superiors? Probably, especially all the pomp and circumstance they brought to this traffic stop. They were serious. This lady said, Bonnie said they had the body armor and the guns. What are you doing with the marijuana sticker on your bumper, the officer asked. Yeah. At that point, she said, using small words for these two to understand that it was a Buckeye leaf, not a pot leaf. He looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language, she said. Obviously, she wasn't, since words were not getting through. However, she literally stood up, got out of the car, and showed the officers the 2002 Oregon State National Championship shirt she was wearing because it had a Buckeye on it. Anyway, so be careful if you have a Buckeye emblem and you're going through.
Yeah, they still wanted her to kind of cover it up.
Yeah.
At least the rest of the time
that's right. I missed that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. At that point, the officers, officially embarrassed by one day, we presume, told her that she should remove the Buckeye sticker from her car. I didn't take it off. This lady is no drug dealer. Anyway, that's just how things are going. You know, on one hand, the walls are coming down, but then we have our diehards.
Well, sure, you're not going to list. You know, the 42% is not going to go away, and we know that there's SAM out there, which is a group called the Safe About Marijuana, and of course the people.
Patrick Kennedy's a little.
Patrick Kennedy, the man who has a good wealth of experience with drugs should know firsthand that marijuana is probably something he should have stuck with, and forgotten about the alcohol and pills and cocaine that he spent 30 years producing. While he was a congressman in Rhode Island. But that's another
How do you
story.
spell hypocrite?
Kennedy. Wait a minute, no.
Yeah.
That's all right.
So we're going to wrap this segment up. We got another one coming right behind, and we're going to have Reverend Will here with us. So we'll be back. We're like a bad debt. We'll be back.
Bother your congressman.
There you go.
Do you suffer from fear of losing your election? Are you terrified that voters will discover you've done nothing to improve their lives? Maybe it's time you talk to your spin doctor about Incarcerex. In clinical trials, Incarcerex has been shown effective at reducing election-related anxieties by making voters think you're doing something about the drug problem. It's simplistic and fast-acting. If your problems continue or get worse, you can always double or triple your dose of Incarcerex. Whether it's addiction, therapeutic use, or just casual use, there's an Incarcerex plan for every American. Best of all, taxpayers, not you, will foot the bill. So talk to your spin doctor about Incarcerex today. Common side effects include loss of civil liberties, police corruption, racial injustice, increased terrorism, spread of HIV and AIDS, and violent crime. Bloated prisons are also a common side effect. Stop taking Incarcerex if bloating lasts longer than 20 years. If you're trying to balance the budget, keep families together, or protect human rights, Incarcerex may not be right for you. Do not mix Incarcerex with the Constitution or common sense. So start taking Incarcerex and keep pretending you're doing something about the drug problem.
Well, we're back, just like a bad debt. The second half, the Eugene Cannabis TV show, and produced at the Community TV 29 studios behind Sheldon High School. We got our friend Reverend Will here with us tonight, and again, Dank on this side. And we want to start out talking about New York. Clear at the other. This is on the right. This is on the right coast. We're the left coast. This is the right coast. Bloomberg seeks to halt pot jail time. New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg announced today in his State of the Union city address that the marijuana possession will no longer lead to a night in jail. The policy proposed by Governor Andrew Cuomo in his State of State address early last month will make possession of negligible amounts of the drug a violation rather than a misdemeanor, the mayor said, effectively preventing the person in question from winding up with a criminal record. Those arrested for possessing small amounts of marijuana are often held in custody overnight. We're changing that, Bloomberg said. Effective next month, anyone presenting an ID and clearing a warrant check will be released directly from the precinct with a desk appearance ticket to return to court. It's consistent with the law, it's the right thing to do, and it will allow us to target police resources where they're needed most. Several advocates applauded the mayor's renewed stance on the issue, which disproportionately affects minority youth. They released statements praising the mayor's tackling of the situation as well as offering advice to the next steps to take. Mayor Bloomberg stopped defending the indefensible and now recognizes that we cannot afford to criminalize youth of color for carrying small amounts of marijuana, said Alfredo Carrasquillo, the civil rights community organizer for Vocal New York, an organization which advocates for low-income people affected by HIV and AIDS, the drug war, and mass incarceration. And I think you wanted to comment on that.
Well, for me, it's nice to know that they're making these minute adjustments in what's going on, if it's going to be going from a misdemeanor to a violation. Look, man, I want my rights. I'm tired of this crap. Understand this. We don't deserve to be in jail.
You only get a little bit at a time. Don't get greedy.
Well, no. I've heard that the whole time I've been here. I moved here 30 years ago, and I've been working on this project ever since. I moved here because I heard this was a good place where you could trust the government, that it was going to have marijuana legal. And when I got here, the first thing that I discovered is the fact that we're being told that we need to take the cover letter pages off of all the petitions that we had. And then we're told that the cover letters coming off invalidates them as being valid. So to me, and from there it's been downhill. I don't care what they say about the medical. The medical isn't doing crap for us. You get a card. You can't smoke the card. It's not even made of cannabis. You can't use it for anything except to put up on your wall or put in your wallet to prove to somebody who you are and what medicine you're taking. Who in the hell else in this country has to prove what kind of medication they're taking? I mean, even if you're taking some, who knows, Coke or whatever the other ones are that are in the Schedule 2, this government sucks. Okay, let's get that straight.
What other medicine do you have to use in privacy?
In the privacy of your own home.
Can't use it in public.
Right. Yeah, you can walk down the damn street with a cigarette and you can kill everybody around you with it, and that's okay because it's legal. Right.
Yeah, so anyway, that's what's going to New York, so we're taking baby steps, but it is a step in the right direction. But another thing, too, I just became aware of, I didn't get a story on it, but I just became aware that medical marijuana is now legal in Czechoslovakia.
Right, so we have Czechoslovakia and Israel who are smarter than we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, we have progress. Then our next story is out of Colorado. Netherlands could become the first to officially regulate marijuana use. The Netherlands, the quiet, self-proclaimed hippie town of 1,500, could soon have an ordinance in place, making it the first town in America to regulate marijuana. The ordinance will regulate marijuana establishments in a fashion similar to alcohol, and there's different licenses proposed in the Constitution. Ricardo Colibri said. Colibri, a proud pot smoker, just moved to the mountain town in January. After Amendment 64 passed, he hopes to see Netherlands looking a bit more like the Netherlands. It's a bit of a slogan, and we are trying to encapsulate the concept of social use, Colibri said. Under his ordinance plan, retail marijuana sales in Netherlands could be allowed for use for those of age. Netherlands Mayor Joe Gerlach laughed at Colibri's pot regulation ordinance proposal. The town board is trying to determine how to regulate recreational marijuana use. We're having a town meeting with our board of trustees, and it's scheduled on February 26th, Gerlach said. We're going to decide what we're going to do as far as the process goes. Colibre's proposed ordinance just needs 90 signatures, but he's hoping to get 420. He would then either be accepted by this town or put on the next ballot to be voted on by Nederland residents. With a town the size of Nederland, Colibre said he doesn't think getting that number of signatures needed will be difficult. Even the mayor agrees. It's just part of our culture, Gerlach said. He just wants the entire town to come together and work on a recreational use ordinance that everybody agrees on. Colibre plans to circulate his petition around town. If adopted, he believes it will boost tourism, which I'm sure it would. So moving in the right direction. Again, baby steps, but all in the right direction.
But at the same time, you know, here you got the mayor who's going, hey folks, look, why don't you just leave us alone, okay? And then we can get on with our business, and you can get on with your business, and when your business falls apart, then you'll see that we actually had something worthwhile you should have been listening to the whole time.
Now, this is out of Montana. This is one of those things, if you're not mad now, you will be in a minute. Medical pot bills are rejected by the Montana House panel. A House committee has rejected 4 bills intended to patch a 2011 law that banned medical marijuana commercial transactions, but was ultimately blocked with a preliminary injunction by a state judge. Lee Newspapers of Montana reports that the House Human Services Committee on Friday also tabled the bills by Democrat Representative Kelly McCarthy of Billings. Let's see, it said restrictive 2011 state law limited providers to 3 users and banned compensation in an attempt to squeeze out profits from what was a booming medical marijuana industry in the state. The revised law allowed those with medical marijuana cards to grow their own pot or find someone to grow it for them.
For free.
For free, yeah. But so I want to jump. This is the part that really gets you. Committee Chairman David Howard, Republican, surprise, Park City called marijuana a joke. This stuff is disguised as medicine, said Howard, a former FBI agent. It makes you delusional. It is psychologically addicting and physiologically addicting, and it absorbs in your fat cells, which is the most dangerous drug there is. This is not a drug; it's a poison. The 4 bills combined would eliminate the requirement that the Board of Medical Examiners automatically review any physicians who have given written certification for more than 25 people in any 12-month period to use medical marijuana. They also would allow medical marijuana providers to be paid for providing marijuana to cardholders, remove the 3-person limit for the number of cardholders that medical marijuana providers can serve, and eliminate medical marijuana record keeping. So anyway, that's what we're doing in Montana.
While you're talking about that, I just wanted to bring up some of the groups that do support medical access to marijuana. American Medical Association, the American Nurses Association, the American Academy of Family Physicians, and the California Medical Association has called for full legalization. Listen, folks, these are not people who don't know what they're talking about. All these other people, you know, the mayor of this city and this Republican representative, they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, look at how when we went to the last meeting that they had about PTSD and how well informed I felt that those Congress people were when they left there, that didn't know anything about NIDA. They didn't know what it was like to be in Phoenix and trying to get something going and having the government back them down. I mean, the whole thing is that it's all these scare tactics and stuff. The United States government is the biggest bully on this block. Okay, they do not care about their people, nor do they care about health. That's been proven over and over again. When you allow the DEA and the Food and Drug Administration to put out all the products that they do, well, the Food and Drug Administration in particular, that have all these side effects that are so damaging and so critical in how you live and not allowing doctors to make their own decisions. The federal government is telling doctors how to interact with their patients. Not my world.
And our last story is out of Colorado. Strong smell of marijuana reported inside the Colorado Capitol Wednesday morning. A strong smell of marijuana was reported inside the Colorado Capitol Wednesday morning. 7 News reporter Russell Haythorne confirmed. The entire Senate chamber smelled like marijuana, said Doug Shepman, communications director for the Senate Democrats. It wasn't a car just passing by and catching a whiff, said Shepman. It was bad. Senate President John Morse cracked up fellow senator during the session by asking, "Do you smell marijuana in here, or is it just me?" On the recording of the morning's proceedings, Morse could be heard asking, "If the sergeants would please douse all the doobies in the area." There's still no word on the source of the smell.
Real quick, I wanted to talk about this one here. It's after years of haggling, New Jersey finally recognized marijuana's medicinal value. The first patients are lining up for their doctor-prescribed pot, but use medical marijuana to ease your pain while you wait for an organ transplant in the wrong place, and you might be committing suicide. In some states, most notoriously California, transplant programs have kicked out patients who use marijuana even with a doctor's prescription. That kind of thing to me is totally insane. And it's like it says here, Los Angeles Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, at least 2 patients were booted from organ waiting lists, one for a kidney, one for a liver. When administrators learned they were both using medical marijuana, their offense, substance abuse. I just cannot handle the kind of idiocy that I'm seeing from our government surrounding this simple plant.
That's right. So the Assemblyman Peter Barnes, a Democrat in Middlesex, proposed a bill that forbids rejecting a patient for any medical procedure because they use medical marijuana, specifically organ transplants. So at least they're trying to correct it. So hopefully you can get somewhere with that.
Right, but he's going to be laughed at just like everybody
Oh,
else.
yeah.
And that's
Oh, yeah.
why Peter DeFazio is a person who's afraid of being laughed at, you know, even though he has had his interactions in the pot world.
We're going to wrap it up for this show and come back next week. We'll be here.
Thank you.
See ya.
All right.